been sold the idea that financial independence is all about some number on your account statement, or even worse, that you don't qualify because of where you started out. That's just not true. It's not about some well-kept secret of the wealthy. It's about finding the right information and knowing how to apply it. On the Get Ready for the Future show, we're answering your questions so you can start making real financial change today. The journey to true financial independence begins right here, and it starts with you.
And welcome into an all-ladies edition of the Get Ready for the Future show today. I am here with Lexi Newbern from the Hot Springs location on your Get Ready for the Future show debut.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, Lexi, I'm so excited to have you join me. Lexi and her husband Joel have been on the GenWealth team for 9 years, and as I said, they run our Hot Springs office. They're over there joined by Bryce Potter, handling administrative responsibilities for them. And I'm so excited to have you on the show today. You know, earlier in March, we had International Women's Day, and then coming up, before too long, we're going to have our second annual Enrich event. This is financial confidence for women, and we really enjoyed the event last year. I want to talk a little bit about that and then tell people about when it's going to be and how they can get registered. So, Lexi, what were some of your takeaways last year?
It was just such a neat event overall, just to see all of the women gathered from different stages of life, which was really neat to get together. And we talked about financial issues in different stages of life and addressed some of those, and had some Q&A. And it was just really neat to see women taking charge or feeling powerful in their own financial future. So I loved seeing that.
It being enriched in their financial education. I tell you, one of the things I enjoyed the most is we had such a wide age range there. We had people who were ladies who were in retirement, and we had ladies in their early 20s. We had single moms, we had married moms, we had, you know, everything you could think of as far as what was represented in the room. And I think it was just a really good time for people to come together and learn together, and also just encourage each other, because one of the things we saw is, you know, when somebody would ask a question, you would see other people in the room, other ladies nodding their heads going, oh yeah, I'm glad she asked that. So the struggles that you're facing financially as a female, I guarantee you other females are having those same struggles. So we are excited to share with you again this event coming up, Enrich Financial Confidence for Women. This is going to be this year on Saturday, April 26th at 9 a.m. Saturday, April 26th at 9 a.m. If you'd like to join us for this, all you need to do is go to getreadyforthefuture.com/academy, and you can sign up for the event there. And I would really encourage you to come out, because one of the other things we didn't mention was the food.
Oh, it was amazing.
The food was fabulous.
Like,
so
if you're going to have a girls' time, we had great food.
It's part of the thing.
Yes.
So yes, absolutely. So plan to come and join us for that. And today we have focused on some questions that are, for the most part, specific to women. So we're going to start first with this question from Gabby from Little Rock. Gabby says, I'm 34 and a single mom. I'm trying to figure out how to juggle retirement savings with taking care of my kids for shorter term needs. It all feels a little overwhelming. How would you recommend getting started for retirement planning? Well, Gabby, first of all, thank you for your question. We appreciate you taking the time to get that into us. And it absolutely is overwhelming. Lexi, you and I have never been in the single mom position. We have team members here who have. But even being a mom and dealing with all of this can be very overwhelming. You're very much in that mode these days.
I am very close to this age, and I have 3 kids, and I agree. It is overwhelming with the needs you have now, trying to plan for retirement, and I can imagine even more so as a single mom.
Yeah, so just the time balance is a big deal, but you focused here to ask about juggling retirement savings with taking care of some of these other needs. So let's start with thinking about what you can control. So, Gabby, it's really important to just think about what is within your power to have control over and to change and adjust. And one of those is spending habits. It's so important to look at what you're doing with just step back, like it's not your budget and your cash flow that you're looking at, and look at where your money is going and think about, is that to the highest and best purpose, even if it's something you enjoy. Or many times, I don't know about you, Lexi, but when I get frazzled, I want to spend money on things to make me feel a little bit better.
Retail therapy is a real thing.
It's a thing.
And it is a struggle to keep in check for some people. I'm one of those people. So definitely helping yourself out by setting a budget and saying, you know, yes, there are things that I need. There are things that we're going to want to do. Having your priorities and your spending habits with what you can control, starting with those, and then, you know, adding in the extras as you can. That's really important. But just having a plan for the spending is really going to help with that.
You know, I think it's important for us to understand how easy it has become for us to spend money. As an example, you know, when our moms were our ages, there was no Amazon.
Right.
There was no, ooh, I sure would like to have a new blouse by Friday. Let me go on the computer at midnight and click and have it sent to me and it'll be delivered and all the things. That didn't happen. And so we have a lot more opportunities and challenges, a lot more opportunities to spend money than what previous generations did. And so we have to be more in that mindset of kind of some checks and balances on whether or not it's really the right time to make that spending decision. Another thing, Lexi, is emergency savings. This is just so critical for a single parent of either gender, for a single parent to have that, because you're in a one-income household. And so you've got to be sure that those things are in place. You want to talk a little bit about having an easy button whenever possible?
Definitely. So getting started with a retirement planning, moving to that part of your question, an easy button, starting with your employer savings plan. So if you have a employer sponsored plan, like a 401k, a simple IRA, something like that, that's an easy place to start. You feel that a little bit less because it comes out of your paycheck before it hits your bank account. So you can kind of set that and forget it. That is a great place to start. Also, you can, set up a Roth IRA contribution to, again, come out of your bank account when your check hits. So that's something you don't miss as much. So that is an easy place to get that started.
And I would say just also take the opportunity to educate yourself financially every time that you can. We provide a lot of education. I'm not saying that it all has to come from us, but to just give you some examples, we have podcasts regularly. We have workshops. If you have other people who can keep the kids, that would allow you to attend a workshop and to be able to gather financial understanding, because the more you know, the more you grow. And it's so important when all of this rests on you. I believe that education provides a great deal of relief to know, okay, I understand what's going on. Yes, I have some challenges, but I understand what they are and how to get through them. So move yourself forward educationally with regard to your finances as well.
Definitely.
And what else would you say is important to focus on?
Another portion of the employer sponsored plan, you may have a match out there. So that is another way to really fast track your retirement savings is, get with your HR person or your employer and say, hey, what are my options on a match? How much do I need to put in to get so much from you? And maximize that if you can. If that works in your budget to maximize that, that is another quick way to really ramp up that retirement savings. You're getting the free money from then on top of yours, and it can grow even faster.
Gabby, one more consideration for you is a possible career shift. I have no idea what it is that you do, how much you make, and what your other possibilities might be, what you might be able to do for a living, but I'll use myself and Teresa Arago, one of our Conway advisors, as an example here. Teresa was a single mom and went through a career shift, and I'll circle back to more details on that. I was not a single parent, but we did go from a 2-income family to one because of my husband's health challenges, and so that financial impact is the same in that way. And so I had to, as Teresa did, I had to find a way to make more income. That might look like a second job, and I understand that adding hours while you've got the kiddos at home, I get the challenge of that, but it might look like a shift to a different career path entirely, which is what Teresa did. And in doing that, she came in here as a part-time bookkeeper, and then shifted over the years and learned what we were doing as advisors, and she is now a lead advisor in our Conway office. And so that difference for her, that career shift, made a big difference in her family's trajectory. She's no longer a single mom. She's remarried, and who knows, what that might look like for you in the future, Gabby. But in the meantime, in the moment, look for those easy buttons. Educate yourself as much as possible and take advantage of all of the financial opportunities that are out there, whether it's through an employer plan to stack up savings and investments for yourself in the future, or looking for a career change. There are opportunities there, and also I would say just support, from your community. Be sure that you've got those people in place. All right. Well, thank you, Gabby, for that question. For those of you out there listening, if you are not subscribing to our show on YouTube, on the YouTube channel, you can find us. Just search for GenWealth Financial Advisors, and you'll find us on YouTube, and you can catch all kinds of topics from us on a regular basis there. Let's go ahead and go to Simone from Jacksonville and see what Simone has in her question for us today. She says, I'm worried about facing retirement alone. My husband is in poor health, and he's always handled the finances. How do I prepare for life after work by myself? Well, that's a deep question. In fact, when we read this in our time, just kind of discussing it ahead of time, the immediate response was that's a heavy question. But, we all know at some point, one of us is going to be facing retirement alone. Right. The question is, how soon in retirement, and which spouse are we talking about? So let's talk about where Simone might start.
Definitely with education to help you prepare for that situation. Again, our Enrich event would be a great place. If you're looking to get some more information on how retirement planning works, what you can do to prepare yourself, that's definitely the goal of our Enrich events, is to help women take charge of the financial aspect of their life with their husband or alone, and get more confident in that. So you can look at, preparing your home for husband's care while having surplus income. So look at what that may look like while you have more funds now. Make a plan of what can we prepare for if that were to happen in the future.
So as an example, if you anticipate needing a wheelchair ramp, then is that something that you could do now that maybe you wouldn't be able to cash flow later, but you can currently? And that's just one example of many. But really take a look at your home. Are there repairs that need to be made? Are there things that need to be adjusted depending on what his health situation really is? Are there things that would make life easier in the future that you might be able to handle now? And is it possible that he might need in-home care? Again, some of this is dependent upon the type of health situation that he's facing, but if that's a possibility, then is there someone in your family who might be able to help with that, maybe while you're still working, or is that going to fall to you? It's probably, in his situation, it's probably too late, since you've said he's already in poor health. It's probably too late to add any long-term care coverage, but we want to be sure that maybe even for you, that you consider that. It may not be something that fits in with the budget, and if not, that's okay, but you want to make an intentional decision, and don't forget about your future as you're facing his health challenges as well. So let's talk a little bit, Lexi, about financial education.
Definitely. Discuss the budget together. So sometimes there is a husband or a wife that is more the budget person, that kind of does the bill planning and the paying of the bills and the income and outs and knowing all of the details. So definitely want to discuss that together and make sure you're both on the same page so that you're prepared to take that over if you were to need to. And then just be part of that conversation and make sure that you're working together so that you can plan together.
Well, and when we say discuss the budget, we're assuming that there is one, and frankly, a lot of couples operate without one. And if that's the case, if that's what he's doing right now, okay, that's fine. That's the way it has been done. But if you're going to do this solo, then having some structure when you're starting something new, having some structure around it, like having a budget in place, might make that easier for you to step into than what it would have been otherwise. I'll say another thing thing that really concerns me that previous generations didn't really have to face is when you're dealing with access to websites, passwords, login, all of that information. There are so many things that are done now online. Lexi, my mom doesn't have any of her financial stuff that she does online. She's in her 80s, and she's still, Hobby Lobby stopped accepting checks, and she was not real happy about it. Like, she was literally still writing checks at places like Hobby Lobby.
Right.
But now in this transition, that we're talking about for Simone, how many things do Simone and her husband have that are online and are automated? My husband said, honey, if something happens to you for the first few months, I'm not doing anything because it's all automated anyway.
Right.
And so I'm just going to leave it and let it do its thing. And then when I can breathe a little bit, I'll figure it out.
Right.
And everything actually is set up where he could do that, and that would be okay. But Simone, is that the case for you? What would happen when something happens to your husband? Do you have access to the passwords and all of the information to be able to get to everything electronically? Right. And then let's talk a little bit about this deliverable, Lexi, that we have for people.
We have a great resource that we discussed at Enrich last year, and then you tell clients about now. Sharing financial independence with your loved ones is kind of a place where we can start that conversation and do the work of what we're talking about of preparing your loved ones. So that's a place you can put, hey, the mortgage is paid on this website with this password and login. This is when it comes out of the bank account, or these are my logins to these things. You can kind of start talking together and working through that to get a plan together to be like, if one of us is not around, here's where everything is. So that is a good thing that we can help in that conversation and provide some value with that.
I'll tell you, this is something, I know Simone is coming at this from a spouse vantage point, but this is something that I review with my mom once a year for all of her stuff. And again, she doesn't have logins, but even just, what insurance do you have in place?
Right.
Where is your pension coming from? What bank accounts are there? All of those things, so that if anything has changed within the last year, we're spending time together to document that, so that when something happens, that we have, as the next generation, we have that information. And Simone, the same for you as the spouse, to just be prepared. And then I think it's very important, Simone, for you to find an advisor while you are still together as a couple that you're comfortable working with later on. It may be that your husband works with an advisor, maybe you don't, maybe neither of you have one currently, but you need to be able to make that transition into being single with an advisor alongside you, and it's so much better if you have that relationship in place ahead of time. So let's talk a little bit, Lexi, about planning for current and future situations.
Yeah, definitely. And I think again, a way to start the planning is, like you said, to meet with an advisor. We've had several clients that come to us as couples, and then one of them has passed away. Yeah. But everybody was on the same page prior to that, and they felt so much comfort knowing that, hey, this is all taken care of. I know that everything is there. They have everything planned out for me, so I'm good to go. So definitely meet with an advisor, get that plan together, and then you can work with them with income changes and long-term care needs and kind of get some guidance on those as well.
Yeah, I remember many years ago now in my career when a couple, a husband and wife, came in, and one of the first things that they shared with me right off the bat was that he had a terminal brain tumor. And that's, you want to talk about a heavy conversation. Yeah. But there's actually some beauty in knowing that, because it's not like he's here today and gone tomorrow unexpectedly.
Right.
We all knew. And so they were able to come in and have those conversations very intentionally. And she's still a client today, and she early on, before she had been on her own for very long, it was so important to her to be able to reflect back on those conversations that all three of us had had together, and she was not questioning what would he have wanted, what would he have thought about this. She knew what he would have wanted and what he thought. So that was a good transition for her to be able to do that with him. Lexi, one of the favorite topics that we covered last year at Enrich that I really enjoyed hearing you speak about was estate planning. You want to talk a little little bit about that for Simone?
Yeah, definitely. If that's something you haven't already worked on, that is definitely something we'd recommend looking into. Estate planning is, again, just preparing your estate for one or both of you to be not around to make those decisions. So planning that together beforehand also provides a lot of comfort and can have those good conversations and get on the same page and get it all in writing so that later on you don't have to focus on that. It's all taken care of. So that is something that really we encourage all of our clients to look into.
You know, one of the things that you can do this part without even going through the estate planning process, but one of the things that we often see is the need to update beneficiaries and ownership of various assets. And the most fun story I have on this, it wasn't very fun in the meeting room, but I find it funny in hindsight, is there was a man who had been married to two women. He was with the second wife in the meeting room, and both of them had the same first name.
Oh my!
We'll say that that it was Julia, and so I'm looking at the beneficiary information, and it says Julia, and it has a last name, but it's not this lady's last name, and I just think it's her maiden name.
Oh,
it wasn't.
Oh no!
It was the first wife.
Oh no!
And it was not intentional. It was not intentional at all. But it made for an amusing conversation for a little bit. And I'll say he got that beneficiary changed very soon because nobody in that circle, except for the first wife, would have wanted it to stay that way. So it's very important for you to check beneficiaries.
Yes, very important. And that's also something that we provide as a service for our clients in every annual review. And so I love that we go through that and we say any changes and help keep those updated. So definitely want to look into that.
Simone, this is the question of the week this week. So congratulations to you. Thanks for reaching out to us with your question. If you would just send us an email to show@getreadyforthefuture.com. We have a tumbler to send your way in appreciation for you sending in the question of the week. All right, we're going to move on to Sabrina from North Little Rock. Sabrina says, we're looking into taking my husband's father into our home to help care for him during his retirement. He's extremely underprepared and is going to have to depend on us for a majority of his needs. How do we balance our financial needs with his? Well, first of all, Sabrina, thank you so much for being willing to take a family member in. I know that is not an easy thing to do for lots of reasons. So we're going to walk through talking about balance in a lot of areas and specifically in some financial aspects of the conversation.
Balance is definitely a key point in this situation. Finance is definitely, but family dynamic, clear boundaries, getting everyone on the same page of, hey, we're adding a member into this household. This is going to change the dynamic. So I think talking through that, talking through some scenarios that might play out, that you can all get clarity and kind of all be on the same page from the beginning, I think that would really help going forward.
Yeah, so Lexi, we have kind of a funny story on this. None of our parents have lived with us, but when we built our home years ago, we thought that it was highly probable that either Steve's mom or my mom might wind up living with us at some point. And so we actually have a guest room in our home downstairs that we refer to as the grandma room. We still call it that today. But the key here is we have never called it the grandpa room. Because my dad, he's been gone for a number of years. I loved him deeply, but he did not need to live in the same household with us. And he understood that, and we understood that. It wasn't like, there was a bad deal between us in any way. That was just a dynamic that did not need to happen 24/7. And so I think that it's, as you talk about setting these clear boundaries, Sabrina, it's very important to understand how this particular person being in your home might change things and to have some of those discussions.
Right. You did that. You got on the same page and you said this would not be the best for
That's
all
right.
parties involved. So
That's
that is definitely important. And then the next aspect is the finances. Again, you mentioned, that's going to be a change to your finances, having to provide some. So you definitely want to, make sure you don't derail your personal finances with your own family. That is something you need to talk through and say, hey, how is this going to affect our monthly budget with what's coming in and what's going out?
Yeah, absolutely, to walk through those scenarios. You know, I think it's important, kind of going back to the relationship aspect of this and talking about things before they happen. You need to talk about financial challenges before they happen as well, because that is going to be part of this dynamic. When you say that he is extremely underprepared, I have to assume that that is underprepared financially and probably in several other areas as well. So if he is underprepared financially, then that means there is going to be a drain on your current family, your current household financially, and you have to be able to draw a line in the sand on how far you're willing to go to help and assist. And that sounds heartless. I don't intend it that way at all, but the reality is you can only allocate the dollars that you have. If you don't have enough dollars to do everything, then decisions have to be made. And I think it's very easy for people, when they're being assisted financially, to fall into, well, you helped this one time with $1,500. Can't you help all the time with $1,500, or whatever the example might be? So just be sure that you don't fall into a pattern and that you do keep that line of communication open. Lexi, let's talk a little bit more about budgeting and where people might be able to go to get some help on this.
Yes, we have
the Spark Wellness app. I think we've got a graphic coming up here, I think, that we're going to see here. So the Spark Wellness app, this is an app that you can get on your phone to help you with budgeting and to be able to walk through, this is how much money is coming in and this is where it's going. And frankly, I think the presence of a budget can help you alleviate some of the financial maybe arguments and disagreements in the home, because everybody can see, look, money in, money out. This is how it works.
Exactly. And a part of that is also your emergency savings. So if you're adding another person, you're definitely going to want to beef up that emergency savings, because now you are caring for more people, more things can happen that you're going to be relied on. So definitely want to increase that emergency savings if you can.
So if you were joining us online, you saw a graphic there of what the app looks like. Just go and get this app. I love at the beginning of this, Lexi, it goes through a bit of a personality assessment. It's great because I have a friend who's very social. Like if he's at a party, you're going to know it, and everybody in the room is going to know it. And he walked through the questions, and it said, "You're a social butterfly." And then another friend of mine did it, and he's very much a business person, a young entrepreneur, and it called him a mover and shaker. And so I was like, well, it nailed both of them. And you go, why does that matter on a budget? You relate to your money based on personality, at least in part. Right. And so the app interacts with these two people differently based on those personalities. So go find the Spark Financial Wellness app in whatever you have to download your apps. Go to that resource and download the app and get started on your budget. There's not a cost for the app, so you don't have to put that in your budget, but it will help you after you get into it. With about 3 minutes a week, you can keep up with your finances. So Sabrina, I think that could be very helpful for you in this journey. Again, to our viewers out there, our listeners on the radio, if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, be sure to do that. We have exclusive content that you can only get on YouTube, so be sure that you search for GenWealth Financial Advisors, and you can keep us up with us there as well. Let's go ahead and go to our final question today. Cindy, via text. Cindy writes in and says, my husband and I, ages 60 and 63, are nearing retirement, but we're not sure if we're playing it too safe with our investments. Our 401ks are both in target date funds for 2030, and I'm not sure about our IRAs. What should I look for in terms of risk, and how safe should my investments be going into retirement? Lexi, we took a little bit of time to look up, just to use Vanguard as an example, because they're in a lot of 401ks. They have their target funds there. We looked up what they have as of today in their 2030 target date fund, and it's currently at a 60% stock and 40% bond ratio. In that stock area, there's 23% of it international and 37% U.S. If you compare that to the 2060 fund, then you're at over 90% stock and less than 10% bonds. And, a lot of people would look at this and go, well, it follows the old rule of take your age from 100 and that's how much you should have in stocks and the rest of it should be in bonds. We would say that it's not that simple, and there are some other challenges that we see with target date funds.
I think a lot of people don't realize that the target date funds are ever shifting. So, based on what year is selected, it's moving around and changing those allocations, and with the different exposures to international, U.S. I think, understanding how those work is a big thing to seeing if that is what you're wanting to do with your funds. Some people don't understand they're so internationally exposed in those.
Absolutely.
And so that is a real concern for some people that want to be more U.S. focused. So I think kind of understanding those a little bit better and understanding that they are ever changing with your age and you're not doing anything with it. Yeah. It's doing it on its own.
Absolutely. One of the other things to consider, and we're not here yet, but looking forward into the future, there's going to be a time when interest rates turn and go the other direction. Mm-hmm. And it's very important to remember that interest rates and bonds sit on opposite ends of the seesaw. So when one side goes down, the other side goes up. So if interest rates go down, bond prices go up. And so we've got to think about what that relationship is, what the impact is over time. And I think, we've seen times like when interest rates rose, interest rates went up, and so those bond prices went down, and people were in these types of holdings where they had a pretty significant bond exposure and they didn't realize the risk because they were like, well, I'm in a conservative fund. It's a target date fund that's less than 5 years out, so I'm okay. Right. Not necessarily. You have to understand how that works, really. Right. So what else, Lexi, about target date funds?
If used the right way, they can be a great tool. They do have a lower cost. So, not to say that they're bad and never right for the situation, but definitely if you're nearing retirement, you really want to start looking into what specifically is in there, how much exposure you have, and seeing if that's going to fit your plan for your age and what you need to retire.
So we really like to take a bucketing approach, and this is something that we also have a graphic on to think about as you're walking into retirement. Retirement for us is not a stop sign as it relates to your investing. It's a yield, meaning you want to slow things down a little bit, but not with everything that you have. And this bucketing strategy that you see here really illustrates how we have a portion of the assets invested conservatively because that's where we're going to take income. Then we have another portion that's invested more moderately, but we're not going to need those dollars for another 10 to 15 years. And then long term, for the money that you'll use in year 16 and beyond through your legacy, we can take more of a growth allocation. So again, it's not a stop sign when you get to retirement. It is a yield sign. And we have the bell there for our final thoughts for the day. Lexi, what's on your mind?
I think these questions were amazing, and we touched on many different topics: estate planning, family dynamics, budgeting, getting started, nearing retirement. And I think it's just a great example of meeting with a financial advisor for your specific situation. Getting a tailored plan for you is so important because we can address these things specifically that you need to look at that affect you right now.
All right. One of the opportunities that you have to expand your financial knowledge, we talk all the time about being education-driven, strategy-based, and team-delivered here at GenWealth. One of the focuses for our education is coming up at Enrich. That will be on Saturday, April 26th. This is a ladies-only event so that you are able to build your financial confidence. So come on out and join us for that. And the way that you do that is go to getreadyforthefuture.com/academy. Just visit getreadyforthefuture.com/academy. And Lexi, I am really looking forward to hearing from you on the estate planning topic. Again, I think you did a fabulous job. Tell the name of the story that I think your grandmother used to talk about. Was it Tilly?
We will discuss the Tilly clause and how to eradicate the Tilly worry, which is Tilly is the wife that will come after you.
So you have to understand the Tilly clause and the Tilly worry. And if you want to know the full story, there will be laughter involved, I promise you, because there was last year. I loved it. It was absolutely one of my favorite parts. But it's also something that will give you a great learning point. So again, be sure that you plan to join us at Enrich. You do have to register to do that. Again, the date is Saturday, April 26th at 9 a.m. Good food, good friends, and great education about your finances. Go to getreadyforthefuture.com/academy to register. And that is going to do it for us today. Lexi, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you. I had fun.
The GenWealth financial team is available to you 24/7 at info@getreadyforthefuture.com or call our offices at 866-653-PLAN. That's 866-653-7526. You should personally consult a financial advisor before making any investment, and no strategy can assure success. Securities offered through LPL Financial. Member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Independent Advisor Alliance. Independent Advisor Alliance and GenWealth Financial Advisors are separate entities from LPL Financial.